Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. I don't know if you guys can see these lines that I have here. There's a little yellow dot, and they have these flickering lines. Okay, spoiler alert, I'm editing. You can't. I tested this. So the lines only exist on my computer. It's not being picked up by the ScreenFlow, which is good, which means I don't have to rush to fix it. But I see them, and a little bit annoying, but I don't see them all the time. And so you guys won't see them because it's some sort of a hardware glitch. But anyways, let's get back to it. Pretend like I I just go back in time before I knew that you didn't see them. And I called Apple, and they said I had to bring it in for repair or some shit. So there's that. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I won't be making videos at that time. I'll take a couple days off. But this thing is a bummer. And so that's what you're seeing here. If you're not seeing it, you can let me know, because it just might be on my. I don't know how the screen share will deal with these lines. The ScreenFlow app. Democrats brace for a possible crack in the blue wall, and signs of North Carolina are slipping. The Harris campaign has privately flagged concerns about Michigan, but officials stress the race is close across the board. Um, I don't know what's going on with this video here. I also updated my operating system and shut the computer on and off, so there's that. These guys are talking about something, but this is MSNBC, NBC News, which is so biased towards the Democrats. And maybe they're saying this to get more people out to vote. We will see what happens. Like, they don't want us, be too overconfident. Um, but, uh, you know, I see that the Harris campaign seems desperate, almost like they've been told you have no chance of winning, or they've been told they're going to lose. There's just a desperation you can see that happens when they let them know that it's just not going to happen for them. So there's that. Let me go to the 538, see what their poll numbers say here. Okay, so this is 538, the guy who did predicted with astonishing accuracy the outcome of the baseball season some years ago. And then he got into politics and polling numbers, and he was the only one who said that Trump was looking good in 2016, when everyone else said Hillary was walking away with it. And he has Michigan as even, Nevada as even, Pennsylvania as even, Wisconsin as even, North Carolina +1 for Republicans, and Georgia +2. And so that would mean that Trump was in really good shape. But also, it's close down to the wire. Again, polls are polls. I guess you guys can't see the lines here, so that's good. So I don't really have to rush to fix this thing, because there won't be these videos with the lines that are permanently there, because it's a hardware glitch and not a software glitch. So this is obviously recording from a pure, it's a recording. Like, if I recorded this with my phone, say, you would see the lines. And so, yeah. So anyways, so there's that. So these guys are, you know, neck and neck according to these polls. Like I said, I feel like there'll be some controversy. Like, this is not going to be a clean, oh, Trump won kind of thing. I think they want Trump to win based on everything I'm seeing and have seen for a while. The narratives they've allowed him to, perpetrate the fake shootings and things. But like, and I don't know when they're going to allow Trump to just. What would they do without Trump? The Democrats and the mainstream media, people control the system. Like, everything revolves around Trump. So getting rid of Trump, I don't know what their next plan would be. And Kamala Harris is such a lightweight and not loved. Like, she'll never be loved by the Democrats. If she beats Trump and they allow, they rig it again, whatever happens there, Trump will be gone, and then they'll just be left with somebody they don't really like. And, she'll be dealing with a lot of problems that she can't fix, right? And so, yeah, there it is. Like these are the polls, and we'll see what happens. I kind of not looking forward to the whole thing because I think it's just going to be a lot of unresolved stuff going for like it might be months. Like we'll see. Remember with the Al Gore and the George W. Bush, they didn't have a winner for like 3 months, and I feel like there'll be lawsuits and it'll be contentious, and whoever wins might not end up winning. Like they might switch it to make it like illegitimate. And whenever you have that kind of a decision where it's a toss up and it's won by like 400 votes in some state, something like that. State by state, there's these close races where there's just a handful of votes that decide the election. Then the person coming in is already doesn't have anything like a mandate, right? If Kamala Harris wins the popular vote and Trump wins the electoral college, that's another thing. It'll be like this situation where he's coming in, and you have a completely divided country, and the election wasn't clean and pure, and all that stuff. And there's not going to be anything that Trump can do in terms of legislation and things. And after 2 years, he's lame duck because he can't run for presidency again. Plus, he's just too old. So it's like there's all that, right? I don't know if they want to take him out and put in J.D. Vance or something. I don't know. J.D. Vance won't be loved like Trump is loved. Like, people get annoyed with him, I think, after. It's the whole thing. I mean, it's just, there's no positive outcome, like, in terms of, the spiritual stuff I talk about. I mean, getting over something we have to get over because it sucks. There's that. Meaning that we have a lot of baggage and a lot of unresolved consequences that we have to suffer through. And that includes the collapse of the system. And, it's hanging over our heads. And once that's out of the way, we'll be able to move forward spiritually and get rid of this abomination of a system. So, yeah, that's positive, but, undesirable. There are things that are tough that you have to go through, and this is generationally tough, generationally, difficult for people to suffer through this next phase that has to be gone through.
It's Kamala's birthday?
She's turning
60 years old?
Do you want to say anything?
Yes, I would say happy birthday, Kamala.
Okay, so I just saw something, I think on MSNBC, where Trump and RFK Jr. are doing a healthcare joint conference, right? So he's out here pushing this poison food, this McDonald's poison food. And then he's going to go campaign with, with RFK Jr. about the quality of the healthcare, which, of course, involves the toxicity of food, which RFK Jr. was talking about on the stage when he endorsed Trump, and Trump was nodding his head, because Trump just agrees with everything. Like, he doesn't have beliefs. He's at McDonald's talking about how great McDonald's is, and then he goes to tell with RFK Jr. talking about how healthcare is. He'll go and talk about how he has suspicions about vaccines, and then he'll go and be the father of Operation Warp Speed, which he claims he's the father of the COVID vax. I mean, he's just all over the place with stuff like this. Like, you can't trust him on anything because he doesn't really have any beliefs or passions other than, himself and popularity and, being who he is, like being an icon or something.
He's turning 60.
Did you get her some fries?
I think I'll get her some flowers.
Why not to bake for
Maybe I'll get her some fries. You're right, that might be. I'll give her some McDonald's. I'll get her a McDonald's hamburger.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Thank you.
No, it is her birthday. It is true, right?
Yes.
Happy birthday, Kamala. Happy birthday. See you later. Bye. Thank you.
Just, like, it's so weird. It's so frickin' weird. That whole thing was bizarre and funny, like, just in a weird Trump way. Trying to connect with people like minimum wage people when he's nothing like that, right?
And
we got to the moon the first time.
we definitely went to the moon. Yes, we went to the moon. We didn't go to the moon. We went to the moon several times.
Right. Oh, yeah. I just want to check your view on that.
We 100% went to the moon.
100%. We went to the moon. Now, I'm not saying we didn't go to the moon, but I've covered this extensively, right? And of course, the whole flat Earth debacle, that all stuck, right? Whatever. This isn't about flat Earth stuff. You know how I feel about that. But NASA lost all of the telemetry data, all the data that they got from the moon missions, like all of it, it's gone. They don't have any evidence. They had reel-to-reel tapes. They had these vast amount of these, big reel. They were 12-inch reels tapes of data. This is back when they had those kind of computers, right? So, back when I was a kid in the 80s, so they said they went to the moon in 1969 or something. So that was the original moon landing was in 1969. And when I was in high school, I was in 1982, I was in high school, we had computers the size of refrigerators. And so I don't know if we had the best computers that were out there, but, the computer technology, in terms of shrinking, to where we now have a computer in the phone, the computer I had in school was nothing like the computer we now have in our phones, right? So you understand the level of technological advancement in terms of collecting information and data, where there would be a terabyte of data or 5 terabytes of data on a little external hard drive, or even these flash drives, right? The ability to collect lots of data. But back in the 1960s, they had these reel-to-reel tapes. So here's some of these kind of reel-to-reel tapes that they have, right? These big reel-to-reel tapes. And here's Wikipedia. The Apollo 11 missing tapes. The Apollo 11 missing tapes were those that were recorded from Apollo 11's slow scan television telecast in its RAW format, or telemetry data tape, at the time of the first moon landing in 1969, and subsequently lost. And it isn't just these tapes, because there's this video of Don Pettit. Let's see if I can find that. And he was talking about how he would go to the moon in a nanosecond, but they've lost all the data. And so there's that. Let's show you this. Let's go back to Elon Musk here.
I know in depth the technical designs of the rockets, the spacecraft, everything.
Yes.
What went right, what went wrong. It was a remarkable piece of technology, incredible piece of technology to go to the moon in '69.
Yeah.
That was like reaching into the future and pulling the future forward.
Yeah, because we can't do it now, right? Just like we can't build the pyramids now, except they exist, right? We could fake a moon landing. We could totally fake it back then in '69. They were doing that kind of level of television fakery, and no one's going to call bullshit on it now. NASA's hanging by a thread. And so the whole point of NASA, the biggest NASA accomplishment, was that moon landing. And everybody watched it around the world, who had access to television, and certainly in America. And so that live broadcast, so to speak, right, there was lots of flaws in it, and there's things that are questionable about it. But no one's going to call bullshit on it now, because it'll just really undermine not only NASA, but America's credibility. If it ever came out the moon landing was fake, America would be, just like a joke, right? Going back to that time, it was like the greatest accomplishment of human history, like something like that, right? One of the greatest accomplishments, getting off the planet and landing on the moon in terms of technological development. And there's all kinds of reasons why it would be faked, one of which was the Russians were kicking our ass in terms of their development of rockets that could lead to ballistic missiles, right, with nuclear warheads on them. And so there was a race to go to the moon to show off who was more technologically advanced. And so America faking it, which the Russians might even know, I don't know, but they didn't say anything, but
dramatically. And it was an important ideological battle with communism. They couldn't put a person on the moon, and capitalism could. And
so that's, that's just a couple of CIA shills here having a conversation. Okay, so this is Dandy Don Pettit, and he is my favorite astronaut by far. He played a didgeridoo in space in air quotes, just in case it's not space, but if he was in space, good for him. If he wasn't, good for him as well. He's definitely the most entertaining astronaut, and by far the one with the best personality. So there was a documentary made about this, and I can't remember the name of it. It was kind of the original one about the moon landing being faked. And I don't know if it's still up on. I'm sure it's up on the internet somewhere. People remember the name of it. They can share it, but not everybody. Just need one person to do that. For people who are interested in seeing it. But it's kind of one of the sort of fundamental, foundational building blocks of the fake moon landing, point of view. And they had this from Don Pettit.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
Why would you destroy that technology, right? Why in the world? This is the greatest accomplishment. People think about this as the greatest accomplishment, or one of them, in terms of the human race. I don't think of it that way, even if it was real. But, in terms of technologically advanced things that we've done, that was a huge accomplishment, right? Going to the moon, space travel. Just like flying, was a huge accomplishment, right? The first flight. And so, why would you destroy the evidence and the information that you gathered from that accomplishment? You wouldn't. There's no way you would do that.
But going to Mars should be one of the next series of steps that humans do. The first step should be going back to the moon for a number of technical reasons and exploration reasons, and then after that, Mars, maybe high orbit in Venus atmosphere, maybe going to Europa. There's all kinds of targets to go to, places of interest in our solar system. The only limit to human future is in our own imagination.
Yeah, it is, Don. Exactly. Our imagination. We imagine we go to the moon. We imagine we go to Mars. So that was one of the, just daggers in the whole idea, Don Pettit. They should never allow that guy to get in front of a microphone. But they did, and there it is. But look, first things first, let's get to this here. Hey, Dandy Don Pettit, what's your favorite YouTube channel? Pockets of the
Future.
Thanks, Don. I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of yours as well. So, let's get into the whole Van Allen radiation belt. And then we can move on to, there's a bunch of funny stuff to cover. Everything's getting weirder. I'm not going to cover any more of the Liam Payne, whatever that was. But apparently he had crack and cocaine and stuff in his system. I don't know at all. He had a lot of stuff. Here it is, the headline. Liam Payne had multiple drugs, including crack cocaine, in his system at the time of fatal fall. Crack and cocaine. So, he wasn't doing very well. But let's get back to the whole thing here with the moon landing. So I might go make these videos available for members. I don't think they're as good as they would be now. Some of my older videos. But the Van Allen radiation belt is the reason why we couldn't have gone to the moon. Or why, it would be deadly. All those astronauts would die almost immediately because they would get lethal doses of radiation, and they couldn't build a capsule that was heavy enough to prevent the radiation from getting in and waxing the astronauts that were on there. In terms of the rockets they have and the weight of the iron, whatever inches of iron they needed to get through this belt of radiation, right? This is solar radiation that's being put into this belt right around our magnetic field. And there was a video out there where this guy was talking about this probe they were sending out into, past the Van Allen radiation belt. And he said it's the first time NASA has ever passed through this Van Allen radiation belt. So it'll be really helpful to gather that information, right? And he didn't say, well, the moon, but we lost the data. He said it was the first time that NASA had never went through this radiation belt because it also would cripple technology, right? Like there were robots they were sending into Fukushima with the radiation that was coming from the the leaks, and the robots were like being fried. Like it's not just people. And so, there's lots of information out there that would indicate that this isn't a slam dunk, even for someone like Elon Musk. Whether he says he saw the technology and and The Rock and all that stuff, because he's a lying piece of shit too, just like the rest of them. But for him to say it's like a slam dunk when it clearly isn't, it's just so many more things than just the things I'm saying. Like it, I'm not saying I 100% know it's fake. Like I don't say that about anything, because the whole everything's just an illusion anyway, right? But in terms of the official story and the holes in the story, it's like 95%, chance it's fake. Like I would be shocked if it was real, because everything pulls for it. Like the circumstances around the situation with the battle with the Russians for space supremacy and the ballistic missile race and these things, and then everything that went around with it, and America's, like the habit of lying, just all the things we know. I mean, it's more than likely that this thing is fake. I got a bunch more funny stuff to get to. Let's just start here. Walls. I have to take a look at Gwen Walls' stuff again. Hopefully there's more things out there. Is there any way we can bypass Kamala Harris and this guy and make Gwen Walls the president? Well, anyways, this guy.
And for me, I hadn't done it often, but a couple of weeks ago I was in a little discussion with somebody who disagreed with where we were at. And I mentioned at that time, when they were continuously denigrating newcomers to this country, I mentioned the one thing of my faith that was very central.
You mean immigrants, illegal immigrants? There's a big difference between coming here legally and illegally. Because my relatives, like, we all immigrated here. I mean, at some point, even Native Americans. Immigration's a part of whatever. But if you have rules and laws, which we do, and the rules and laws are never fair, and they're all whatever, right? But they're there. And what binds society together. And governments, as bad as they are better than chaos. Chaos and no rule of law. Like, people think that when there's no governments, everything's hokey-dory, and it isn't, right? But people coming here illegally, that's a problem. It isn't really their problem, because they're just desperate, right? I don't hold anything against them. But there are people that are willing to hire them because there are jobs that Americans won't do, right? That's why there's immigrant populations. Because you have a country like this that's, wealthy and kids grow up entitled. Eventually, you have to import your laborers, because people won't grow up and do hard jobs that need to be done, right? Especially like, harvesting of fruits and vegetables and things like this.
Whatever happened in my youth, this sunk in. That was Matthew chapter 25, verse 40.
Boom, he's quoting the Bible here.
What you do to the least amongst these brothers and sisters, you do unto me.
It's just the Bible. It just came in so handy when he's talking to this person who didn't like immigration.
There's a lot of life that can come out of that simple verse. And I, for one...
What do you mean a lot of life? What are you talking about?
Feel incredibly blessed. For one, I'm blessed to be on this ticket with Kamala Harris, and I've gotten to know the Bible.
This is a blessing. I mean, it's what a blessing that is, dude. You look like a guy who's just blessed.
She tells a story. She tells a story when she was in high school. She had a close friend who was struggling, and Kamala asked her what it was, and it turned out that this young woman was being abused by a stepfather.
Yeah, like, we didn't believe this when she said it, and now it's even less believable when you're saying it. Like, it just seemed contrived and made up, and which is the same thing. It seems contrived and just, not realistic. It's just goofy.
And the Harris family, single mom, took that young woman in to give her a place of refuge. And
Boom, exactly. Kind of like immigration.
Place. And her mom, Kamala's mom, said when you see something wrong, you have a responsibility to do something about it.
No way. What? Like, say that again, because it's hard. You see something that's wrong, you have a responsibility to do something about it. So every kid in that school that was in a situation like that, or all the people, every kid in the country like that, you would take them in. You can't do that. Like, you can't fix everyone else's problems, right? You could maybe do this one thing here. But, there's plenty of people out there that need help. There's all the homeless people. There's all kinds of people out there. Entrepreneurs, as I call them. And so you know, there's all kinds of people that need help. Are you going to, you know, help all of them? You can't. You can't possibly do that, right? I mean, you can fix some things. You can help some people. But, you know, it takes your life's energy out of you. And somebody struggling as a single mom and having a daughter like Kamala, you know.
And it seems to me that in that moment, that friend of Kamala's was the least amongst us. And
The least, exactly, boom.
Kamala was living
She was the least because of what her stepdad was doing. She was the least.
Matthew 25:40 in her life.
You know, there's nothing better than being the least among us. I'm going to help you because I see you as the least among us. Oh, yeah, like, I'm helping you as long as you acknowledge that I am, like, the most among us and you're, like, the least among us. And therefore, the most of us, the most among us, will bow down and help the least among us. Because it's in the Bible. I feel kind of responsible. You know, I'm pretty great because I'm the most and you're pretty shitty because you're the least. And so it's just, you know, I mean, I'll throw you a bone. Like,
And she talks about that being a pivotal moment for her. She went on to become a prosecutor, district attorney.
yeah, like those are great things. Prosecutor, a district attorney. Do people think those are great positions? They're not. Those aren't good. She's a lawyer, first of all. No one likes lawyers. My wife was saying that she got into law school because of some underprivileged thing that she had, which wasn't true because, of course, she grew up in a wealthy, you know, family with a mom and a dad who had PhDs, right? She was, you know, middle upper class, at the very least. And I don't know if this is true or not. Just, you know, but like there's somebody out there that got screwed over, that wanted to go to law school, that would have needed this. You know, there's so many spots they give to underprivileged people, and Kamala took them. And again, I don't know if that's true, but you know, it totally would be true. Same thing with Trump. I mean, people like this always take advantage of the system because that's what they do, right?
Attorney General, United States Senator, Vice President. And can we all agree that she is the most qualified person that's ever president?
Really? Like, that's the part I want to end with here. You're saying she's the most qualified person?
I'm saying that's pretty good resume. Pretty good resume.
The resume is fake as fuck, just like your beard marriage, right? You Richard Simmons look at Eminem.
We know that we both try and find a reason it's not, but it struck.
So, I mean, just like this guy. Okay, two of the most annoying people, the Hammer guy, interviews Hillary J. Clinton.
We have known each other a very long time. It's your first time on this program, and I'm nervous about that.
Oh, dear.
You're worried that she's going to, like, poop herself or something, or pass out and hit her head at your desk and get your show canceled?
You know, at first I thought when they said, you know, when it's a show, I thought, oh, yeah, I've known her forever. This will be fine. What we just heard
That's the award-winning smile.
in two places. One on Fox,
Right.
which was a stunning thing to watch, but then also in Pennsylvania, two versions of this candidate in complete control of her message and what she wants to deliver in Pennsylvania, and then fighting back misinformation on Fox.
On Forks. Fox, I mean Forks. Not Forks, Fox. I don't know why I said Forks.
What are you seeing in this candidacy as you watch it at this stage?
Because you're unforksable. Maybe because you're unforksable.
What I'm seeing is a person who has the character, the values, the temperament, the discipline to be an absolutely first-class president.
Boom, exactly. Donald J. Trump.
And that's what I want the American people to see as
Oh,
well.
I can't believe you're endorsing Trump like that.
Lawrence, you know, you gave these two examples.
Wait, what does that say here? Lawrence. Something lost, something gained, author. She lost something, was that the presidency, and you gained something. What was it? What did you gain from losing the presidency? Because she's still pretty bitter about the fake news and how Russia stole your election. You know, that whole thing, remember?
Lawrence, you know, you gave these two examples. Her speech in Pennsylvania, right on the point where George Washington crossed the Delaware, and she reminded us of that.
That must have been an epic moment. I didn't hear it, but it just sounds epic.
Heroic fight for our liberty. She covered all of the important points about the danger that someone who doesn't believe in our Constitution, doesn't believe in the rule of law,
Exactly. That guy, Donald Trump.
doesn't believe in the kind of fundamental
Look,
values
she seems like she's juggling some nuts here.
that we
Let's
hold.
go back. Watch her juggle some nuts. I'll just think. I'm just going to juggle some nuts here. Look, I'm juggling some nuts. Her own, I don't know.
Country,
somebody's-
and that Washington crossed that Delaware in order to wage a revolution and achieve. And then on Fox, she stood up for herself.
She just kicked that guy's ass. It was awesome. She looked like petty and argumentative and desperate.
Didn't take any of the sort of foxiness rhetoric that
She
came
didn't like any of that foxiness.
from Bear.
Bear.
And she was
Bear was giving her the foxiness. Bear and his foxiness.
able to make her points despite every effort to undermine her and talk over her.
Not her points. Her frickin' talking points in her speeches. Not her points. These rehearsed lines that we've heard over and over again. Just like we heard that story now with Walsh and her friend that was being abused and this stuff that all looks contrived and completely manipulated to paint her as somebody she isn't. And she's she's the most unlikable person since you. Like, you guys are having an unlikable off.
She's exactly the kind of person that I want to be president.
Exactly. She's a woman. Somebody like me that should have been Trump the first time. People are saying that that's not her. They've replaced Hillary Clinton. That's her. And why would they replace her? Like, there's no reason that she needs to exist. Nobody listens to her. She has no fan base. Like, this show isn't going to influence the election. Everyone watches this show already voting for Kamala. There shouldn't be anybody watching CNN or MSNBC. MSNBC is worse than CNN. And watching this show and thinking that they're undecided. Like, it's silly. Of course they're going to vote for Kamala. Like, why are you guys even... Like, this isn't going to convince... There's no reason for her to be out here. Other than just to remind us, like, this corpse of an unlikable piece of crap that lost to Donald J. Trump in the first place, and rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders and just behaved poorly, and just put the whole Clinton thing that sucked with Monica Lewinsky and all that shit behind us. And so, like, she's done. This is just her. They pretend that these people have some stature, and they have none. Nobody gives a shit about her.
We had a minute to talk privately. I know you well enough to know you're really enthusiastic about her. Now, here's what else I know.
Yeah, you are.
No matter who the Democratic nominee would be, you'd be sitting here.
Yes.
And you'd be pushing that nominee. And you have done it for every Democratic nominee.
It's crazy that you're a Democrat and you do that.
You can help, and you always will. But you're really personally enthusiastic.
Yeah, I am. Is Kamala enthusiastic about you? Like, they don't want any association with you because you're the example of what could happen. Like, whatever happened with Joe Biden, he beat a woman in the first election, and now she's very similar and very unlikable. Like, Hillary Clinton isn't going around with Kamala Harris and then campaigning together. They don't want, and the next woman who runs isn't going to keep Kamala Harris around if she loses. Isn't going to want Kamala Harris's, albatross of Kamala Harris around her neck. I mean, Kamala Harris isn't going, hey, look, I'm bringing out Hillary Clinton just to remind you what it's like to lose to Trump, what it's like for a woman to lose to Trump and be unlikable. Like, two things, they don't want them to stand next to each other because people will go, oh, yeah, that's why we didn't vote for Hillary. The same reason I don't want to vote for Kamala, because they're unlikable, right? Not that they're women, but they're unlikable.
I am so excited about her candidacy. I've known her a long time. Her sister actually worked for me in the 2016 campaign, so I know the family. I did everything I could to help her as vice president. Vice president's a tough position.
Tough job. It's a tough job. Like, go and be board czar and then any of the other non-existent things that she did.
For anybody. Here she was, our first woman vice president, coming in during COVID, for heaven's sakes.
Exactly. I mean, that was crazy. COVID. She had to deal with COVID by basically just sitting there and being ignored because nobody liked her.
It was such a complicated time. And I know how well prepared she is, and
Okay, so Jesus Christ. So right before Hurricane Milton hit, Fox News showed this. This is the Stephen Colbert show. And he wanted to have a beer with Kamala Harris, right? She's not a beer drinker. I don't know if she drinks wine, but if she drinks something, it's wine or whatever, martinis or some shit like that, right? But like they try to make everybody, Hillary Clinton drank anything because she's like an alcoholic. Like there's these pictures I have of her, and everywhere she went, she was doing shots. And she's doing shots like when she's campaigning with people, going into bars and showing how she's a, tough Pennsylvania gal or whatever. But Kamala Harris is, grew up near Napa Valley in California, and elitist parents, academics, and she doesn't strike me as a beer drinker. But Stephen Colbert doesn't strike me as a beer drinker either, right? And they're trying to make themselves like Trump going to McDonald's, and it's just stupid. Like you're better than people. Like you think you're better than people. You're at a different level than these people, and you want them to think, oh, they're just like me. They're not like you. Yeah, if you're gonna like shine their shoes or something, or pick their vegetables, or clean their house, but none of this stuff, right?
It's for Miller High Life. You write Miller High Life.
So she chose Miller High Life, and then they do a product placement here. I don't know if they're giving her money, so they do that.
I'm just curious.
Okay, the last time I had beer
When's the last time you had a beer?
was at a baseball game with Doug. So.
Okay.
Dougie Doug.
So
Okay,
cheers. There you go.
cheers.
There you go.
So why don't you do that cackle before drinking a beer like it's some big... Woo, you drank a beer, woo! And this happened right while people were evacuating Florida because of Hurricane Milton. I mean, it's so freaking icky. So I covered this on my Apocalypse Now channel. I'm trying to make content there as well. But I covered this for years. It sort of played out. Like the died suddenly. People don't care about the died suddenly. It's gotten worse. I was walking around with my wife, and I went out to a few different places, stores, and went to a Walmart. And I'm like, I think something's happened to people. Like, and I think it might be the bloop. And, like it's just kicked in. Like there's been some sort of, like mutation, a negative mutation. There's supposed to be a positive mutation where people become more spiritual, where they're, like our hidden potential of evolution, spiritual evolution comes out. But right now it seems like it's going the other way because of some genetic crap they've done. Because people just look worse, weird, ghoulish, loss of energy, right? And so now National Sudden Cardiac Arrest Awareness Month is observed in October. The month is dedicated to educating the public about sudden cardiac arrest, a life-threatening condition that occurs when the heart stops beating. The goal is to increase awareness of warning signs and risk factors and encourage people to take immediate action if someone goes into cardiac arrest. Of course, now they were putting defibrillators in schools because kids were just having cardiac arrest. Of course, Damar Hamlin. And I covered this. And, there's just a shelf life for things like this, but it was post-COVID and post the boop. And it seemed like the bloop had a big part of this as a side effect. And now it's just become normal, right? And everyone's still making their bank, Pfizer, these other companies. There's no sense of any kind of lawsuits or anybody covering this. But why all of a sudden are we concerned about sudden cardiac arrest? Where people, young people, kids, athletes, just all of a sudden, LeBron James' son have cardiac arrest. And it didn't exist before. And now there's all kinds of groups and movements and, how to get defibrillators in schools and train anybody how to, because people are dropping like flies, right? And it's like sick that people, even the truth community move on from things when they just get worse over time. Like there's going to be more and more of these cardiac arrests as this, whatever's been done to the American people continues to unfold, right? So another way I think you can tell that Trump is winning is MSNBC is getting really agitated and desperate. Remember Rachel Maddow the night that Trump beat Hillary Clinton? Like that kind of stuff. That's the only good thing that come of this, because Trump's going to be a freaking disaster and a fall guy. And I've explained this before, and I'll explain it when this all shakes out if he wins. If they have it. Someone's being chosen here. And it's a pick 'em. Right now it's like, these states are a coin toss, and they're all within the margin of error. So you got about 10 states are all in the margin of error, and a number of states are right now. It's not even, there's no advantage. It's they're running neck and neck. And so this is where they're going with this.
John D. Miller, former chief marketer for our sister network, NBC. This week, he wrote in U.S. News and World Report about his regret leading the team that marketed The Apprentice. Also joining me is Tim O'Brien.
The guy was not presidential, right? So you're making it sound like you guys turned this guy into a potential presidential candidate. And you didn't. Because nobody who watched The Apprentice would say, oh, this guy should be president. Nobody with half a brain. And the people that like him didn't watch that show, his fans. Trump somehow, which he is good at doing, is telling people what they want to hear and figuring out what they want to hear. And he tapped into some, anger in America for this, liberal movement that's going on. And he, this Make America Great Again thing. And it just clicked, right? And nobody saw it coming. It had nothing to do with The Apprentice, right? It had to do with Trump just willing to go there where other Republican candidates weren't. We're willing to embrace the anger and the QB-ness, right? The QAnon stuff and all the things that were there. Remember when Trump came out and said, "This storm is coming," right? And now there's been a number of storms, plus Stormy Daniels, but none of which were the ones the QBs bought into. But he's just will lie shamelessly to these people, and even when he gets caught lying or not following through on his promises, these people never leave him.
The Apprentice. Also joining me is Tim O'Brien, senior executive editor of Bloomberg Opinion and an MSNBC political analyst and pal of the show. Thank you both for being here. It's great to meet you, Mr. Miller. I want to read you to yourself. I'm going to read you to you. You wrote this. You wrote, "We created a monster. Trump was a TV fantasy invented for The Apprentice. At NBC, we promoted the show relentlessly."
So you guys lied about Trump, right?
Thousands of 30-second promo spots that spread the fantasy of Trump's supposed business acumen were beamed over the airwaves to nearly every household in the country. The image of Trump that we promoted was highly exaggerated.
So you lied to the American people. They're admitting, NBC, part of their whole news thing is they created this fictional character. And now you guys are like his number one detractors. But you guys lied about this guy. And this is what I've always said. Like Trump was always a bullshitter, but they love this guy. Rappers love this guy. I mean, this guy was celebrated, and he was always a fraud. He wasn't as rich as he said he was. He certainly wasn't successful as he said he was. He had all these issues which they knew about and covered up. They covered up all this stuff for him. And now he's lamenting it? Well, then why the fuck did you do that, right? It was morally wrong for you to present this guy as something he wasn't. They were lying to your viewers and your audience. And now you're regretting it? Well, you're not regretting it because you lied. You're regretting it because he's now, this, whatever he is, you're, Antichrist, right? You're Antichrist, your personal Antichrist. Well, you should regret your behavior of lying. Why lie to people and deceive them about all these things? You're lying to people all the time, and this lie that you helped to create is now, your worst nightmare.
In fact, Trump declared business bankruptcy 4 times before the show went into production, and at least twice more during his 14 seasons hosting. The imposing boardroom where he famously fired contestants was a set because the real boardroom was too old and shabby for TV. I also learned from working with him that he has questionable judgment. At the wrap party for The Apprentice Season 3, he pitched an idea for the upcoming season. This is wild. He told me we should make a team of black players compete against white players. My first thought was, WTF.
Yes.
You created this guy. You are responsible for lying to the people that, perpetrated these things. And now you're coming out with this information after he's already been president. And now you're like, oh, yeah, we shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done it, not because of him, but because of you. You don't behave that way.
Talk a little bit about the way that that Trump was in reality versus the Trump that people saw on the show.
Well, what you see right now is sort of what he was in reality. He was, to a large degree, someone who was an entertainer. He really was not a good businessman. Our job is, from a marketing perspective, for the conceit of the show, was to make it seem like he was a legitimate businessman.
They lie about him, create falsities. And how many people did he screw over, and how much bankruptcy? Because every time he went bankrupt, there's people who, people who are independent contractors that maybe lost their business or couldn't maybe even possibly feed their families. I mean, all the people he screwed over because you created this myth, and he was a complete moron. And of course, now he ended up being president. You created a myth and lied to the American people. And, you're part of a news network now with the MSNBC, family. And, of course, NBC News and all these things. And you lied about it. It was a deception because you guys lie about fucking everything. And this one came around to bite you in the ass because the people who control the system thought this was a good way to propagate their agenda. And you guys, fucked over the people that was your audience. And now you're whining about it, Rachel Maddow and that crying when, Trump got elected. It's coming back to roost, like MSNBC and Morning Joe and all these people. They're affiliated with this, Alec Baldwin and Saturday Night Live and New York and all the things that Trump is connected to. And you guys were once like a part of that, and you guys didn't like the guy, I bet, but you did this anyway.
Competent, good judgment, compassion when needed. None of those things were actually apparent.
Because they didn't exist.
But that's what we had to do to make the show work. And so,
so you could have just not made the show work.
So we created that narrative, made it seem like it was money, like he was living in royalty, with the cars and the limousines and the helicopter all labeled Trump, in gilded, like the gilded New York age, and then had to position him as a great potential CEO. And I say potential because he never really was a CEO. Right. He was a lot of little businesses that he had. But to make the show work, we had to make it seem like that. And unfortunately, because we just pummeled American with those messages.
Those lies.
That remains there right now. And to many people, even though there is significant things that you can see right now where that's not true, many people think it is. And right now,
because fuck you, that's why. You did that, bro.
With the economy being one of those things that people are looking at, we made him seem to be a very smart businessman. And quite honestly, that is not true, because he wouldn't have 4 bankruptcies and then ultimately 6 during the time of Apprentice if he was that good.
Right. And I mean, look, Mark Cuban.
He just sucked.
Is on a TV show, but that's because he's judging other businesses, and he's a very successful businessman and really genuinely rich.
Mark Cuban has his own TV show, and the guy who did Virgin Airlines from England, that guy, whatever his name is, don't tell me, don't care, don't need to know. But Mark Cuban's first episode, he didn't know who to pick. It was a tie for who was going to lose, so he decided by having to play Jenga. Trump took it personally. Like he said, Branson came after me and I killed him, and Cuban came after me and I killed him. And they weren't against each other in the time slots. Like, Trump was on like Monday night, they were on Friday night or something. And they were just trying to make, content based on other successful content, right? Like that happens all the time. But Trump took it personally, like they were trying to steal his position, the Apprentice thing. And just like how petty and silly he is. He's a silly little man. Okay, so this is Stephanie Ruhle, who once was a banker, a successful New York banker, and then decided, she wants to just do the news instead, and so they put her on there, and she is one of the worst. I mean, not as bad as Mika, but, along those lines. And she's going on the thing with Trump and McDonald's here.
Vice President Kamala Harris spent the weekend shoring up support in some must-win battlegrounds, while former President Donald Trump held rallies where he cursed and made vulgar comments about sports legend Arnold Palmer. The AP notes that Donald Trump went on the attack after VP Harris raised questions about whether he was exhausted. He hit back, calling her a bad VP, but he didn't call her bad. He used a word that I get in trouble for when I say it on this show.
Boom. What is it? What, a B word? That is a swear? What did he call her? And they got the McDonald's things here.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, let's see what he says here.
He took showers with the other pros. They came out of there. They said, "Oh my God." That's unbelievable. I had to say it.
Trump
What
also
was that? Wait, let's go back to that.
digression about Arnold Palmer, spending 12 minutes talking about the golf legend in his hometown of Latrobe.
When he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable. I had to say it.
Oh, you're talking about his Johnson, bro? Like, Jesus, what's wrong with these people?
Trump also holding a photo op at a Philly area McDonald's, working the drive-through window to pre-screened customers.
We love you. Come here, thank you very much.
And scooping out French fries.
You got the salt on it.
Saying he doesn't believe the vice president worked at McDonald's for a summer in college. Harris responding today.
Did I? I did. This is so bizarre. Like, they're making a big deal out about working McDonald's. Like, we all had shitty jobs, and they want to be like those people, right? I picked tobacco for $2.47 an hour, and, you know, years and years ago. And then I worked at various places. Caldor's was a department store that no longer exists, and the Pie Plate where I washed dishes, right? We all had our, and I had college jobs like that too, right? Where you take these jobs when you're in high school and college or whatever. And they're fun jobs. Like, some of the jobs are like great. You had your friends there or whatever. But, you know, if they didn't do it, they didn't do it. And, like, trying to identify with people that did, I don't care about. You know, to vote for somebody because she worked at McDonald's, and then Trump going there to undermine her and call bullshit on her, you know, this thing that she's built up that's completely fake.
Here to discuss, former Democratic Senator Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota. She's the founder of One Country Project and CNBC.
So I guess they went nuts. This is, I don't think they have the McDonald's things here. Let me see if I find the other one. So a few videos came up from Fox News and Sky News on my feed talking about MSNBC lost their minds over Trump going to McDonald's, and they have, right? I'm just going to show you a few of the video clips. They didn't put it on their channel. At least they didn't make it easy to find, but it is on the internet. Because, you know, they just couldn't let this thing go.
15 days until Election Day, and more than 14 million early votes already submitted, Donald Trump decided yesterday was the perfect day to highlight the peculiar biographical fact that he has never worked a day in his life.
Kaboom.
Donald McDonald made a special appearance at a completely rigged photo op version of a McDonald's drive-thru in which the customers were actually just posing as customers, having been pre-selected and pre-screened by the Secret Service to take their positions in the drive-thru line of a McDonald's that was actually completely closed down.
Yeah, like we couldn't figure out that exact same thing that I said in my video. Of course that's the case, but you're not calling bullshit on Kamala Harris's, all her lies and her making up, I mean, just all of it. Or you're not talking about her getting on her knees and servicing a guy twice her age to get her job. And if she was Trump, you would talk about that constantly, right? Like, they're all liars and fakers. You're liars and fakers. You're irrelevant. There's no truth here at all in any of this stuff that you guys produce, either politically like Trump and his campaign or Kamala Harris and her campaign, or what you guys say on the news. You guys are just lying all the time, like creating this fictional character that your network did, and now you lament it because you lied to the American people. And this, when you built this guy up, the way you're building Kamala Harris up now, because that's what your job was to do, right? To lie to the American people.
Just so Donald Trump could pretend, for once in his life, for a few minutes, pretend to work for a living. The way Kamala Harris...
You're calling this working for a living, right? This slave job, right?
Once did when she was working her way through school at McDonald's. Just
because she said it, like there's no evidence that she did work there. And it doesn't matter.
Like her husband, Doug Emhoff, worked his way through school at McDonald's.
At any point in your life, have you served 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions?
Like, what's so funny about that? Look at this.
On a sesame seed bun, working at a McDonald's. Yes or no? That's it. I have.
Like, she's on some kind of medication. Like, I don't think she's weirdly, Like, that isn't hilarious. There's no reason to laugh at that and get all that excited about that.
The McDonald's that Donald McDonald closed down yesterday so that he could pretend to work is in Pennsylvania, of course, a crucial electoral college.
Okay, so this is the first one. And, like, you know, it's just so fake. And choosing one fake side over the other is silly, especially if you're doing it for, like, this kind of, you're putting on a suit and tie and pretending to be a newsman. It's just silly. Okay, Exhibit B here.
He has gone to a McDonald's. He's gone to this McDonald's, and he's in the Philadelphia area. He's going to work a fryer, apparently, before he goes to the Steelers versus Jets game. I mean, if you're on his campaign, and I know you are certainly not, I'm not making any implication of that, but what is the logic behind this, going to a McDonald's? I mean, we know the guy likes Big Macs and filet of fish. And
It's because he wanted to shit on Kamala Harris and also connect with people who are stupid enough, who haven't figured out who they're going to vote for yet. If there's any, like, whatever reality-based legitimacy there is to the election. But that's why he would do it. And it's probably going to work for those dopey people who, would end up voting for him anyway, right? Because they just can't think about Kamala Harris.
Used the word love to describe the way he feels about the food there before. But what's this about?
There's no logic to it. It's a stunt. He has not put forth an economic agenda.
Okay, so this is Exhibit B. Exhibit C.
Tonight, former President Trump taking questions from Pennsylvania voters at a town hall.
We're going to bring them over directly to
After taking over the fry cooker at a McDonald's in the suburbs outside Philadelphia.
They're really pushing the fries here.
Yeah, looking to push his unsupported claims.
Like, McDonald's is getting so much free publicity here.
Vice President Harris lied about working at the fast food chain when she was in college.
She talked about the heat. It was so tough. She never worked at McDonald's.
His attacks
Unsupported claims that she lied.
against Harris increasingly dark and profane, saying this at another Pennsylvania campaign event on Saturday night.
We can't stand you. You're a vice president.
Oh, it was the S word, not the B word.
The worst. You're the worst vice president. Kamala, you're fired.
Harris responding to those comments tonight on MSNBC.
What you see in my opponent, a former president of the United States, really is, it demeans the office.
Trump also making headlines for kicking off that rally in the town of Latrobe with the 12-minute monologue about hometown hero golfer Arnold Palmer, which took a bizarre turn when Trump described the late Palmer's anatomy.
When
we saw this, all right. Like, just, it's getting so bizarre. And Kamala Harris just, like, pretending to be above it all. Like, she has this era of superiority and just, let them eat cake, cackle that she does. I mean, just, like, I would never would have conceived of an election being this stupid and this remedial and just the way this has gone. I mean, it's kind of been epic since the Joe Biden, when they stabbed him in the back and they rolled Kamala Harris out. And then Trump, coming in, and he's deteriorated mentally, and you just get worse, right? He's in his 80s. He shouldn't be running. He was too old before. He was a bad president before. And so, I mean, it's just an absolute mess. But this is my favorite part about it, because I like to show you that it's a joke. I like to show you that it's fake and a joke, and that, only spirituality will save this world. Only your interconnection to God is what's important in your life. And all this stuff about fame and wealth and power and politics, it's all just a lie and a mirage. And these people are not evolved. They're the worst people. They're like less than you. They seem like they're in a higher position than you in society, but they're less evolved than a person who is committed to having a spiritual life and finding their spiritual path and their soul's purpose, right? Unless their sole purpose is politics, and that still is like an early lesson that you learn early on, that wealth and power and these things are the goal of your life. You should learn them. If you don't learn them, you just keep on coming back addicted to this, and you're just doing more and more damage to your, piling on more spiritual grossness. But this shows you how much a joke it is, right?
And Matthew, I have to ask you about Donald Trump trolling Kamala Harris with these baseless claims that she never worked at McDonald's. He put on an apron.
These baseless claims that she never worked at McDonald's. Are we seriously deciding the election over whether or not she lied about her work at McDonald's? Like, that's what's being discussed here. Like, her lying. And, you know, she lied about everything in her biography in one way or another, the way they presented her. And, you know, because they can't present her as she is. She's unlikable. And, you know, like I said, her shelf life is wearing out. And as soon as she wins or loses, she's done. Like, because Trump will disappear, and then she's got to be a person that people like, and they're not going to like her. The Republicans are going to hate her, and the Democrats are going to, you know, want to blame somebody because she's going to be a fall guy for this whole thing. And if Trump wins, she's going to disappear as a loser, just like Hillary Clinton, never to be seen again, right? Because she has no real, she's not the most qualified person in history, as Walsh says, because it's all bullshit, right? But her qualifications, the one that's being talked about most of all, is whether or not she slung French fries in that, you know, polyunsaturated fat, death fat that is being cooked in, right? That congeals your blood, you know, clogs your arteries and all this stuff. You know, that these, you know, these death fries, these walking heart, these, you know, these fried heart disease French fries, right?
He salted the fries and, pardon the pun, peppered in the insults. Take a listen.
It was a big part of her.
So, yeah, that's it. Like, that's my favorite part. The fact that they care about this. Like, and he cares about it, and they're making a big deal about whether or not she worked at McDonald's, like, all the way back in high school or whatever the fuck it was. Okay, so I recently saw a Shark Tank clip where Maria Shriver and her son with the last name Schwarzenegger were selling anti-Alzheimer protein bars because her dad died of had Alzheimer's, right? And this is a really great clip here. So she's campaigning for not her brother or cousin or whoever RFK Jr. is. Cousin, I guess. She's campaigning for Kamala Harris, right? And she does this here.
We have some questions from the audience that we will get to. I have a few questions. As I said, I went around to meet several of you, and I heard some questions that some of you had. But universally, many of you said the reason I'm here is to see bipartisanship. I want to see what it looks like so I can go.
Okay, so there's going to be no bipartisan because that means the Republicans would have to accept Kamala Harris, which they're not. There's no way they're going to accept her. There's just no way. So it's over, right? Like, they're not going to. And the way politics is now, it's just, there can be no bipartisan. It's just gone too far. It's just gone too hostile. You know, like fighting aliens, right? Or, you know, what happened with the big event in 2001, 9/11 event. You know, these things where there's, you know, universal support for the government because everyone bands together to fight something else that's trying to take over all of Earth or all of America or whatever, like alien invasion or maybe World War III or something. But I don't even think that would be, you know, Americans don't want to fight. Like, we've gotten to the point where that's another reason America is going to fall. Because you see these aggressive countries where there's a level of aggression indoctrinated into the youth. The Vikings, like I said, I know all these Danish people now. The Vikings used to be these kick-ass people. And now they're, you know, very passive. And, you know, these, I mean, the, you know, Attila the Hun or these various, you know, whatever they are, these people out there, these Mongolian people and Genghis Khan and some of these, you know, whatever it was, right? These groups of people that were once aggressive and now they're very passive because, you know, population, a country matures. And America was a very adolescent, angry country. And now people are just over it, and young people don't want to fight, and there's just no, you know, even World War III, people will be like, "No, we don't want to bother with that," right? There has to be something devastating to the, you know, American country that would bring everybody together, threat of invasion or something, I don't know. And so, you know, but the goal has never been to bring America together. But let's go back here, right?
Bipartisanship. I want to see what it looks like so I can go home with information. So you're going to get that. Okay? So let's get going.
Dude looks like J.D. Vance.
So sit back, be comfortable. You're not, unfortunately. We have some predetermined questions, and hopefully I'll be able to ask some of the questions that might be in your head. I hope so.
That's a great moment right there, right? There's an ad here, keeps on popping up. That's a great moment. So she talks about these people and asking questions. You know, we just saw the stuff from the Hammer guy talking about how Trump had these, pre-screened people coming through the drive-through, and they have pre-screened questions. But maybe because of her psychic ability, she might ask some of the same questions that you have in your head, right? And so they're only letting, this is what they did with Joe Biden. Like, they're not letting, this is supposed to be the American people asking about their concerns. And, all the things that now exist on the internet and all the different points of view that are there that weren't there before because it's become, backed by, people have their doubts or their own things they don't want to say out loud. But those things are being said out loud now on the internet, right? And the whole idea of the truth community and all these things, social media. And so people will ask questions that they wouldn't have asked before. And now they have become so, meticulous in their handling of that, screening of that. And this great moment here, she's like, no, you can't ask questions. Well, why are we here then? She's supposed to be talking to us. No, we have people we handpicked already. And we gave them, part of the campaign, and we gave them these questions to read. So she can recite her same old bullshit she's been saying now for the past 3 months, right? It's a wonderful moment. Okay, so this is interesting here.
And on the immigration thing, she's the only candidate who has actually endorsed a bill that would hold down immigration.
So remember that Bill Clinton is younger than both Biden and Trump. Like right now, he's younger than Biden or Trump, or they're the same age or whatever it is. Like, think about how much he's deteriorated here. And he shouldn't be, like, he's just not good anymore at doing this kind of shit because he's too gone mentally. He's had that heart replacement, all that shit, right?
In any given year to a certain point, and then make sure we gave people a decent place to live, and we did total vetting before people got in. Now, Trump killed the bill. The bill was being written by senior Republicans in the Senate, and he killed the bill. Why?
Why?
You had a case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened. But if they're all properly vetted and that doesn't happen.
Okay, so he's an absolute mess, right? And he's helping Trump here. Trump is running this as an ad, right? Because of all this stuff. And, he's just going to make a lot of gaffes because he's gone mentally. I mean, we saw Hillary earlier and, all these people. There's just nobody. They got Obama. That's their one sort of asset. He's trying to bring in the votes that he got. And they're not rolling out Joe Biden anymore because of him, and he's all bitter or whatever, plus he's senile and, Parkinson's. And so, this is the Democratic Party. They have no young, upcoming people that would translate to, anything outside of their party. Like, the Republicans suck too, but the Democrats, their superstars are all dying out and they're worthless, right? So, and again, think about Trump being this guy's age, just to understand, the fall off here. Because with Trump, we've seen him over the years where Bill Clinton has been disappeared, but he's sort of fallen off. Like, he's just not anything like he was before. And, just the way he is, the way he's talking. Joe Biden also, he was there. He was vice president, and he showed back up after 4 years, and he was clearly having mental issues, cognitive breakdown. But anyways, just an absolute mess. This is just, this is the political landscape. Okay, so this was up. I forgot all about it. Or I I didn't forget about it because I was talking about this in the voiceover you're about to hear at the end of the video. and I must have X'd out of it somehow. But this shows you how WWE Trump is. So this is The Undertaker, this is Kane, this is President Trump. Trying to look all serious and bad and all that stuff, right? It's on TikTok.
Everyone, November 5th, Election Mania. Choice is yours. You can go with President Trump, Kane, and The Undertaker, or you can take Kamala Harris, Dave Bautista, and Tim Walz. Choose wisely. The nation depends on it.
And that should be an easy choice.
You know, just silly stuff. Embarrassingly bad. So when I'm reading these comments about people who think Trump's, you know, somebody just sent me a message on Facebook saying that I was wrong about Trump and McDonald's. It was a brilliant publicity stunt. Of course, it was staged because it had to be. I'm like, you know, it's just, the guy sucks. Like, you know, and you'll see it. Hopefully you see it. I don't care. See, it doesn't matter to me what you think about it. Because it doesn't matter. Like, your vote probably doesn't matter. At least, you know, in terms of, they have to make it close enough to steal. But they let Trump be president once. Again, this was the idea that there's controllers that are controlling everything. People who control the system, shadow government. And so if you believe that, if you believe in what really the deep state is, it's people who control the government who have all the money and power. And the presidency is just a puppet position. And so if that's the case, then why would they let Trump be you think they wouldn't rig the elections? You think the first time they rigged an election was Trump against Biden? You know, the elections are rigged from the outset because there's only a handful of people that have any real chance of being president. You ever wonder why that is, that there's just not some organic movement out there where people connect with a real person, right? I mean, there's great parts of RFK Jr. Obviously, he shit the bed when he took that take on Israel, but he was much more a real candidate, and his father and uncle were incredibly powerful. I mean, iconic politicians in the Democratic Party. The Kennedy family's worshipped in the Democratic Party. Marie Shriver's up there. And the Kennedy family, you know, all the things that they've been a part of. And here's a guy who was a successful environmental lawyer, which is a big issue for Democrats. And he was, you know, good at his interviews. And of course, he has that, you know, problem with his voice. But his family rejected him, and the Democratic Party wouldn't even let him primary Joe Biden. They wouldn't even let him do it. And, you know, the Republicans wouldn't have allowed him to win either, right? The whole system is rigged, and there's a two-party system, and a third-party candidate doesn't have a chance. And even if that candidate did have a chance, the only way they'd let that candidate be alive and be a part of the system is if they were owned. The system is 100% rigged because we're talking about trillions of dollars in assets and corporate powers and foreign powers and, you know, this world of, like, big business and military industrial complex and all this shit that, you know, that all this power stuff that's there. They would never allow a real person, a caring person, to have the kind of power that they pretend the presidency has. It's silly. The whole thing is silly to believe. And Trump is so WWE, so fake, and he's doing it to appeal to low people. You know, people who are of lower consciousness. People who have the inability for abstract thought. People with double-digit IQs. That's the majority of content that's messaging that's being put out there by both candidates. And going to McDonald's, which is food that's poisonous, I mean, nobody should be promoting McDonald's that cares about any other people, right? I mean, the stuff is like the worst garbage, and all these people eat it and are negatively affected. I mean, you're eating McDonald's food, and it's like this, you know, I mean, it's not food, most of it. People know about all that shit. And, you know, this stuff with the WWE. But anyways, I was doing this comment. You read this comment about people saying that the assassination attempts were real. You know, I'm one of the few people that talk about this, and I say this you'll hear this coming up. You know, why would you want to suppress that, and why wouldn't you at least put out the possibility that it could be fake? Like, you're that desperate to believe in Trump? Are you that pathetically desperate to believe in Trump that you can't even question whether this is fake or not, right? Like, that's how, like, cult. That's like you're a cult follower, right? If you're a truther and you can't even put out the idea that it could be fake in a real way, that you're just not dismissing it. You're actually looking at it as being possibly fake, and then not worrying about all the audience members you're going to lose because the truth community has been invaded by dopey Trumpers, right? And so the whole thing's pathetic. So you're going to hear that coming up, because while I'm in the middle of this, like talking about this, I remember that I had this clip I forgot to show you, one of my viewers sent. But it just shows you how, the whole thing is WWE, it's lowbrow, and Trump loves that shit, and he's always loved it. And he's got the support of these people because they're all, they're the Vince McMahon villain people, and he's part of that whole thing. Anyways, it's silly. The whole thing is just silly. Okay, so this just popped up on Facebook. 2 completely different reactions to someone yelling, "Jesus is king." Choose wisely, America.
I think that that's right, Jesus is king, and I don't think that we've seen...
Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. No, I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street.
So 2 things here. I didn't hear anybody yell "Jesus is king," and they could have dubbed that in. I'm not sure Kamala is reacting to them yelling "Jesus is king." She could be reacting to any kind of people that say a Trumper shit out there, right? And she was given this line like she's given everything else. Like she gets all sassy. It's just stupid. She's given this line. She didn't come up with that. That wasn't her line. You're at the wrong rally, and there's a smaller one. You don't need to go a smaller one down the street with his small hands. And remember Obama and Clinton were talking about it, like they were, talking about Trump's Johnson. That's weird stuff. But these are given lines that she does. But I want to talk about Jesus is king. There's nothing worse than a king. There's nothing worse than believing in royalty, because it's the opposite of the democratic process. I mean, all you people say you love America, love patriotism, but then you love the royal family and you want to be king or queen, or you want to be called king or queen, or those people have king or queen, as part of their whole, they call it, they think of themselves as royalty, and, it's the opposite of democracy. And so the beauty of the American system, and the American system is completely fucked now, but the idea behind it is that that there wasn't going to be a king or a queen, that you would democratically elect the best leaders that you thought were available. Of course, that doesn't exist now. It's all bullshit. And, it's completely rigged. But there was no idea that people had royal blood. And so there are people who are viewed as having royal blood. And whatever they believed about it, whether there was some kind of connection to aliens or whatever their, belief about these people, that only people with this type of blood were able to be not only kings and queens, but dukes and these people, right? Like you had to have some of this royal blood in you. And if you were a royal family member and you fell in love with somebody who didn't have this royal blood, you couldn't marry them, right? You couldn't be, a part of that cabal there, the royal family, and this is how it's viewed. So if you think that being a king is a good thing, see, back when they were, trying to sell the Jesus story to people, the king was the greatest thing, right? People who were kings were considered godlike. And so when they tried to sell God, they sell God sitting on a throne, judging people like kings, because people look up to kings, and kings were the bomb back then, right? And so that's how they tried to sell it. That's why these books aren't very good, because it appealed to people who, they aspired to be, like when they talked about greatness, it was either warriors, it was some kind of, oftentimes both, a king who was also powerful and physical. And that's how they made God. Like, oh, that's God. God's like a badass king that can kick anybody's ass. Oh, God's the king of kings. Well, that's just stupid shit, right? Like, it's not real. Like, a spiritual person never wants to be considered a king or any of these things. Jesus was here to bring down kings. People, spiritual people come in to get rid of that kind of bullshit, right? And to call Jesus king is silly. He wasn't king and shouldn't have been. He wasn't of royal blood. He was a spiritual person who had spiritual potential, and he rose to a spiritual level, just like other saints and other spiritual people. But because the way they're trying to sell you their religion, he's the king of kings. Yeah, because they're going after stupid people, just like they always do, right? There's not very many religions out there that are for sophisticated people. That's why people who are intelligent often don't believe in God, because they don't get any kind of, reasonable explanation for God. They get this dopey religious shit that people say, and dopey people like to put shit out like this stuff. And J.D. Vance saying, yeah, Jesus is king. Yeah, you don't believe in that either. He's just, he's not a religious person. They just want to appeal to these people, right? They lie to them. A higher developed soul will give you the truth you don't want to hear, and they're not looking for fans. Jesus wasn't looking for fans. Neither one of these other higher developed souls. They weren't looking for people to follow them. I mean, they would gladly have people follow them, but they weren't going to pander to those people. They had to tell them the truth. And in Jesus' case, it got him killed. And if he was a king, they wouldn't have crucified him, right? That's not how it would handle. King is not there's no divine kings. There's no kings in the heavens, the brighter world. There's no kings there. Kings are for planet Earth. It's a bullshit concept that because of people's genetics, they were born to rule. Because we've seen one king after another be a piece of shit, and oftentimes because they grew up with entitlements and their genetics didn't help them be the kings that they were supposed to be, because it's all bullshit, right? And so these things are just stupid. I'm just getting tired of the whole stupidity of the thing. It's just so dumbed down. Everything is idiocracy. Everything's... somebody wrote me a comment because I was talking about going to Walmart and just looking around and seeing how people were affected. And I think it's gotten even worse since the bloop, the COVID bloop. But, I don't, whatever it was. And someone said, when you're judging people at Walmart, remember you're at Walmart too. Yeah, I'm a visitor there. I'm going to Walmart because I have no other choice. If I'm at Walmart, it's because I have no other choice. I feel like they have energy in the place. Other people have commented on this that gives people headaches. And, I don't trust Walmart at all, any of this stuff, right? It's, whatever. It's not like I have some, all these stores and corporate, whatever they are, I avoid them. I try to go to, you can say things, same thing about Whole Foods is compromised. If I could, I'd go to all locally owned stores and things like this that are, but it's still the same shit that you're buying, right? Whatever it is. But when I talk about Walmart people, there's a certain level of people at Walmart that's, other than maybe the Dollar General, the dollar store or something like that, this is degraded people. And I'm not, they are whatever they are. I'm not running them down. I'm just talking about the level of intelligence, the level of comprehension, not so much intelligence, but the vibrations that people give off in their consciousness. And they're just killing people. They're wiping them out. People are barely functioning. It's not just poor people. I see this with everybody. Lots of people got the bloop that are, have money. This isn't about people's success level or, their income status. This is about, the consciousness of the American people. But the people at Walmart are eating the worst food. Because Walmart is 90% of their food is the processed. They have some organic stuff, but their organic stuff is suspect. Walmart is these big stores. I actually like going to Costco, which is similar. Costco just is a better store for whatever reason, has better energy. But you see, at Walmart, it's just, people are walking around with grocery baskets full of cancer and, heart disease, and it's just, they're killing people with all that shit, low vibrational stuff, and, everyone gets these monster TVs and just, wearing people down, and they have nothing left. They're just, obese and physically wrecked and, out of shape, and they have multiple chronic multiple chronic health issues. They're prone to these cardiac arrests and these things. It's all the things I talk about here, right? Anybody can see that. And so, it's low consciousness people that they want to vote this so they can kill them. You're voting for people who want to enslave and kill you, right? Who want to poison you with food and pharmaceuticals and things. And weaken you and march your children off to these Agenda 2131 houses and, get rid of all these things because the economic system's broken and they don't need you anymore. Like, you've become useless eaters because almost everything that you do, I mean, they don't need the economy to grow the way it used to, and they can't. The debt-based system is too much. And so they got to depopulate, and they have to find ways of controlling a system that's already collapsed economically, morally, and every other possible way. I mean, it's really bad right now, and if you don't see it, don't see it. I mean, that's part of it. Like, it's the people who can see it are, maybe the ones that are going to be able to survive this thing. The people that don't will just march into the FEMA camps, and whether they follow Trump or some other Pied Piper, it doesn't matter. It's just they're too weak. They don't have any fight left in them. They don't have anything in them that could, deal with the collapse of the system and look at the opportunity to evolve spiritually in a new paradigm. All right, let me get to the other voiceover here. Okay, a few more things to get to. This thing just dropped this morning. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd. And Biden said this.
I mean, so I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We got to lock him up. Politically lock him up. Lock him out. That's what we have to do.
Joe Concha.
Okay, so, boy, he's just feeble. But why we use those words, lock him up? Because, this is about voting, right? Like, the American people could choose. Like, if the American people are capable of choosing Donald Trump after all the stuff the official system did, and I'm not advocating anything. I think Trump's a piece of shit. Like, I'm not, Trump sucks and I wish Trump would go away. But after all the official system and all the official media has done, all the media but Fox and a few of these other fringe, like, right-wing type of channels, and even Fox, like, to some extent. But after all that they've said about Trump, all that's been posted, all the things you've seen, there's still a good chance Trump's going to win. Like, how is that even possible? That means you've lost all power over the perception of the American people. Now, they stuck him in New Hampshire. Right, let me pause. They stuck him in New Hampshire. Look at this confused look. Now, let's go back here to when he first starts talking. I'm going to stop, and you see what he looks like every time I stop. So he's confused there, right? Like, he's confused there. It's like nobody's home, right? No matter where I stop, there's no, boom, there's no, like, looks that he's coherent. It looks like he's inebriated. Boom, look right here. Confused. They're in headlights. His eyes are, there's nobody freaking home because the guy is senile. And they've stuck him in New Hampshire, which if they're about to lose New Hampshire, then they're screwed. So he's not in one of the swing states where he could do some real damage. But still, he's out there being, like, senile and being, having Parkinson's, reminding everybody of what happened. And so, if they're the good guys, of course we know they're not, then why would they have to, like, talk about locking Trump up, right? Because they can't beat him. Like, they're so sucky, they can't even beat Trump. And Trump sucks. Like, there's enough information out there that you should never vote for Trump. There's no... there's nothing that he says that you can believe. There's nothing that you can count on him doing or not doing on your behalf. He's completely compromised as a person. He showed that he's a piece of shit and he'll turn on you in a second. And anything he says is just, for self-promotion and to get something out of you. And yet people are willing to vote for him passionately. And then the Democrats, like, they can't muster up a candidate who can beat a guy who's, in their view, a convicted criminal and, caught lying and just all the things that he's done. Like, that's how bad things are right now. So here is their real rock star. So they send Barack Obama to Detroit, and they're sending all these people out because she's not getting it done. Kamala Harris isn't getting it done, right? Like, these Barack Obama's all over the place, and they're featuring him regularly on mainstream media. He's being interviewed. And you can tell he really is into it. Like, he's into doing this again. And it's probably like one of the bad things about being president is that everything that you do afterwards, first of all, you have to have the Secret Service with you everywhere. I saw Jimmy Carter on a flight. And so it's not like you can go back to being like a normal person. And you can get some high-paying gigs and, you show up and you're a former president. But you don't have that, whatever that thing is, that celebrity status you had when you were president, right? And you don't have the rock. Once in a while they have a convention, they roll you back out or whatever, or a candidate in this case. But they want the people that voted for Barack Obama, particularly in the African American community, to come out for Kamala Harris the same way, and they're not. And so he's up here in Detroit. But look at this thing here.
Someone who defines pure Michigan, someone who has brought attention to Detroit.
There's something wrong with Michigan. I don't know if you guys live there. It's a beautiful state, I guess, but there's just something off about Michigan. Like, just saying. It's been my limited experience.
Someone who believes in our state, who believes in our teams, who believes in Michigan to his core. And
our teams, like our sports teams. He believes in them.
Has shown the whole world what Detroit and Michigan can do. So without further ado, can the real Slim Shady please stand up?
Woo! So here he comes. Eminem comes out. Remember when he was harassed for saying the derogatory F word towards gays all the time in his music? And they're all accusing him of being homophobic, and then all this stuff about, locking women in his trunk and the anti-feminist stuff here. And all of a sudden he's somebody who his political endorsement means something, right? To Democrats, liberals. Like, remember he made that kind of bogus cipher that he did at the BET's Black Music Awards Entertainment. He did that thing against Trump. And, and then Trump introduced Eminem. Let me show you that. This is a Slim Shady National Convention, Slim Shady for president. And here's Trump.
And Donald Trump is telling you right now, Slim Shady is a winner.
So he introduces Slim Shady here somewhere. And then he's going to say Shady with his... See, he's mouthing the word shady just like he did when he said fight, fight, fight. Like, he mouthed the words the same way, shady. And then Eminem comes up on stage. Bizarre thing that happened, right? So rappers used to love Donald Trump, right? But this is bizarre because Slim Shady was considered a villain. Like, it's kind of like the Dick Cheney stuff, right? Like the Eminem of the past and what a bad influence he was on kids and a lot of shit that he said. And so they're rolling him out because of Detroit or whatever this stupid thing is. So he comes out.
You said you was king, you lied through your teeth. For that.
So then he's got his thing.
Detroit!
What's up, Detroit? Woo!
What up, though?
I don't know. What up? What up, bro? What up? You're like 50 now. You talk like this no more. When you're like 50, what up?
So look.
Look up, look up, look up, look up.
Down a few things I wanted to say. I love you too. Thank you.
This guy has New York on his fat.
I'm here tonight for a couple of important reasons.
What are those reasons, Slim?
As most of you know, the city of Detroit and the whole state of Michigan mean a lot to me.
Yeah, they're just, you love that place.
And going into this election, the spotlight is on us more than ever, and I think it's important to use your voice. So I'm encouraging everybody to get out and vote, please.
Boom. Good. Like Eminem wants you
I
to
also
vote.
think that people shouldn't be afraid to express their opinions. And I don't think anyone wants an America where people are worried about retribution or what people will do if you make your opinion known.
Yeah, exactly. Like Donald Trump. Like, they don't. If you vote for Donald Trump, that's what's going to happen.
I think Vice President Harris supports a future for this country where these freedoms and many others will be protected and upheld.
Boom. That's what she wants. She's going to uphold freedom. She's all about freedom. Look at freedom. It says it right here. This dude's freedom.
Woo! And here to tell you much more about that, President Barack Obama.
No way. So Eminem is introducing Barack Obama the same way that Trump introduced Eminem. And so they're playing this song, You Lose Yourself, right? They're playing this song. They're playing Eminem's song, Lose Yourself. And watch what Obama's going to do. So he goes up. He comes in, gives her a hug. And then the music will be copyrighted. He goes, Eminem, look, yeah, well, we're just tough guys. Yeah, let's, way to go. I know, like, point to him. It's him, it's Eminem. Boom. So put your fist up in the air. All right, what do you guys say?
Detroit!
Woo! Woo! Obama's here, not Kamala, woo!
Are you ready to go?
We're ready to go, Barack. Tell us what's up in Detroit. Woo!
Hey, I've got to say, let me just say, let me just say,
This is just, he's such a tool. See, this is like, he's digging it. Like he's living the life again, right? This is what Trump doesn't get either. Like Trump's on the pathway to where he'll be in Barack Obama and Bill Clinton land. Like he's just going to be out to pasture. But even worse, when Trump loses this election, or, I don't think he is going to lose it, but after, it's just, he's gone. Unless he's dead, he's going to have to watch this, like, remember when he had rock star status, because it goes away, right? And, it's a conditional thing on people's desire to believe in something that isn't real. And so it's not a real thing. And they're, the love that Trump gets from the crowd, and all these guys love this, right? Look at him. Look at that dude right. Look at this dude right here. Let's go back like a couple here. Watch this dude right here. He's so excited. So some piece of shit claimed that they copyrighted or had the copyright to Obama in this public speech that's being shown everywhere by everybody. So somebody, claimed that it was their copyright, and it isn't. Once in a while, some, greedy piece of shit does that to try to, get people to pay their hard-earned money for videos to some person who claims something that isn't theirs. And so I filed a grievance, a dispute, and if it doesn't get resolved on time, then I'm going to put this video up instead. And so it's just Obama doing the first 4 or 5 lines of Lose Yourself, and it's kind of funny, and, I mock it a little bit, and it would be better if I could show it to you, but again, some piece of shit claimed it and doesn't have the copyright for it. Because people suck, right? This is just, it's a constant thing that people do. They find something they know a lot of people are going to use, and then somehow they claim copyright on it, and then YouTube eventually gets rid of their copyright claim and erases their channel, but they're able to sort of just make it, it just sucks for everybody else.
but I keep on forgetting.
No, get out of here. I'm still his friend. Did that just happen? Like, look at how stupid everything has gotten, right? Like that stupid song, from Eminem's movie, 10 Mile, the Lose Yourself, right? Has nothing to do with anything politically, and he just wanted to do that, right? So he kind of did it in his Obama cadence, and, just bizarre.
Dun, 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 dun. I thought Eminem was going to be performing. I was going to jump out. Love me some Eminem.
He loves him some Eminem. He does. He loves it. And then he likes M&Ms as well. Like, it's just weird. He likes both things. He likes the music. He likes to eat M&Ms while he's listening to Eminem. It's just kind of a thing. It's a thing.
Back. All right. I love you back.
So he's getting real love here that Kamala Harris wouldn't. I mean, just think about it. Like, he's retired and, you know, like, he just doesn't have this likability, enthusiasm, rock star status, which means that she's going to lose, right? Like, when you're trying to roll out other people to say to vote for you, like Eminem and this guy, you know, these people in the crowd will vote because they're already there at the rally. But the people who are less enthusiastic about the whole thing, and they're like, well, if Obama ran again, I'd vote. Well, that's not, you know, you might get a few stragglers or whatever it is, but it isn't going to be enough, right? You know, again, I don't know. I mean, the voting's rigged anyhow, and I feel like they're just picking Trump for all the reasons I've said. Because when they get rid of Trump, they get rid of Trump. And if Trump loses, they're not getting rid of him. There's going to be, you know, Trump's going to just have to be there, even though Trump is clearly breaking down. He's senile, and we'll get into more of that. Like, his brain's not working. He's saying stupid shit, weird stuff. Like, you know, I showed you this already in this video. The last one, I don't know, both of them. Like, Trump is always just doing goofy stuff. And so, you know, like, either way, it's, I don't know what to say about it. You know, it's Trump being Trump. And, like, now he's breaking down mentally. So that's not good. Of course, Biden, they're both too old. Bill Clinton is their age, right, which is disturbing. We just saw him. And they were just rolling out all these people because Kamala Harris can't do it. Like, they have all these people going to all these swing states. If the campaign was enough, they wouldn't have that, right? And so, you know, this is, I don't know, right? Where's Tricky Trick? Yeah. So, Trump gets Tricky Trick, and Obama gets Eminem, or Kamala does. It's just like, this is where we're at, right? Where, like, they're rolling out rappers to try to get votes. And so, like, you know, what more do you need to see? Okay, so there's one last thing here.
Here on Friday night, but
Wait, let's go back a little bit more. Woo! Like, how do you cheer this?
Now, I heard there was another rally here on Friday night, but it was a little smaller than this one.
Again, with the small gestures, right? This guy loves it right here.
Don't boo now, vote. Don't boo. I'm telling you right now, don't boo. They can't hear your boos, but they can hear your votes.
Boom. Wow. Brilliant. Exactly. Get out and vote.
And I am here today for a very important reason.
Okay, so, you know, he loves to make fun of his rallies and do his hand gesture. He did this at the DNC, the convention. They love talking about Trump's Johnson and then, you know, make it about his rally size. But the fact of the matter is, if Kamala Harris could produce the energy he's producing, Obama is, you know, and he's kind of, maybe it was a surprise guest or they know he's coming, and the whole thing with Eminem, right? And she had to roll out rappers initially. She went to Atlanta and rolled out all these entertainers and bring energy there. And all these people showed up to see the entertainers. And they came in. There was some music was played. Like, this is part of their whole thing. And, you know, they're old people. Like, I kind of still listen to rap. Like, I have some, you know, it's still like a thing. But, you know, I did it when it first came out. But it's, as you get older, like, your music tastes become more mild. Like, everything becomes more aggressive, right? Loud noises, and, you know, you might like things more simple, and it's just, you know, whatever it is. You know, Kamala Harris and me are the same age. And, you know, all the loudness and all this energy, this is youthful stuff. The way these people, this kind of emotion, it's the, you know, youthful emotion. And so, like, Trump had these had more enthusiasm than Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. That's why they did COVID, because they didn't want to show you how little enthusiasm was for Joe Biden. The same there was for Hillary. And people say, well, that's the reason Joe Biden definitely didn't win. Well, the hatred for Trump, you're underestimating the hatred for Trump, right? It's totally possible Joe Biden got that many votes just because of the hatred for Trump and the fear of Trump and all these things. And all the anger towards the economy and things and COVID. And, it's possible. Like, I'm not saying it happened, whatever. It's all rigged anyway. But Trump had more enthusiasm than Biden and Hillary. And so they knew there was an enthusiasm gap. And so Kamala Harris started to roll out entertainers at these rallies. Remember when she first was announced? And she was trying to bring youth into it and all these things. But they're making fun of Trump's lack of size at his rallies, and she did the same thing. And I showed you that earlier in this video. And yet, if she was so great at bringing in enthusiastic rally goers, why are they rolling this guy out in Eminem and celebrities? I mean, Trump's doing it with Trick. Like the whole thing, like it's just devolved. This is idiocracy, like to the lowest common denominator. There's nothing here where you're using reason and, intellectual integrity and intellectual, people believing in things, people believing in, these types of policies they're producing, people having real stories, not some made-up bullshit story about why they believe in what they believe. It's just all contrived things, these made-up stories about, things that happen. I mean, this is for Kamala Harris. And Trump just comes out and says whatever the audience wants to hear, and they cheer him. When clearly the things that he's believed and what he's done in his life, it's just he's a flip-flam man. He lies about everything. Like he goes up with RFK Jr. and talks about health foods and getting rid of all the poisons in foods. He's going to do another thing with RFK Jr. And then he just did this thing with McDonald's. Like it's just, they don't believe in anything. They don't have any beliefs that they, anything inside of themselves to, justify what they're doing or say why they're doing what they're doing, why they are so passionate about something. They're not passionate about anything, about winning. That's all it is. And then they'll do whatever the people that run the system tell them to do, whatever's best for them financially and every other way. And they'll throw you under the bus any chance they get. Like it's so obvious, but, they'll do these little stupid celebrity-based type of events, and it's like that's enough, right? And so this thing's just an absolute mess. I mean, it's just devolved into the lowest common denominator, like the least intelligent, people without the ability of abstract thought. And the truth community is, completely compromised because they won't call Trump out for his bullshit and his ketchup gate. Because people need something to believe in. Everyone's so fucking desperate to save a country that should have collapsed years ago. And it's, there's nothing we can do about it because it's, not just economically, but morally and, in terms of our relationship to divinity and all these things. It's taking everybody the wrong way. And these kids are growing up into this nightmarish, hellscape that we've created by not, dealing with the real problems here, that we have a dysfunctional demonic system that goes against the will of God in our soul's path. Okay, so I want to read a few comments here, but first somebody sent me this thing. I'm not going to show it here because I think YouTube is against this kind of stuff. But it was a video, and I guess there's a series of videos on TikTok where people are taking their hair off, their body hair off with Pam, which is some sort of, when I was a kid, Pam was some kind of new thing that they were putting out that you would spray on your pans and make them non-stick. And I searched to see if this was like real or just something that people were faking, how they fake stuff. But it says, no, you should not use Pam cooking spray for leg hair removal. Flammable propellants. Pam cooking spray contains flammable propellants like isobutane and propane, which can be dangerous if released suddenly. The canola oil in Pam is a high polyunsaturated fats which breaks down when heated. Pam also contains soy lecithin, grain alcohol, and rosemary extract. And so this stuff, you can see the videos on whatever it is. is being sprayed on people are spraying it like on their legs, and then they wait a little while, and then when they take it off, the hair is gone. And then people spray this on their pans and use it. Like, I didn't know this stuff still existed because I always thought it was toxic. Even my mom was like, wouldn't use this when I was a kid. You know, it was like, I don't know, I thought it was like WD-40. I mean, before WD-40. But people used to spray this on surfaces so stuff wouldn't stick to it. Of course, canola oil is, you know, I've been talking about that. But it goes to show you the kind of stuff that you're putting in your body can, like, take the hair off your legs. My wife suggested the Nair. There's a product called the Nair that was, you know, we used. There was a commercial said, "Who wants to wear short shorts? I wear short shorts." Nair for short shorts, and it was women sprayed it on their legs. I was wondering if it's the same kind of thing. But anyways, I'm not recommending something. But YouTube doesn't like that kind of stuff because it promotes dangerous behavior. So I'm not going to show you the video, but it's just, you know, whatever it is. So I got a bunch of comments. I just got a comment. I you know, banned the person because they, you know, did something that I say don't do. And I didn't do a screenshot of the comment, but the person said, basically, you know, I agree with you on a lot, but you're wrong about the assassination attempt against Trump. And they're just silly ideas. This other person wrote this here. You know, again, like, the first part is I'm one of the few people that's saying, the reason I'm talking about that comment is I'm one of the few people that says that this thing is fake, right? And what do you think's going to happen by saying, oh, I agree with you on most things, but you're wrong about this? What do you think, I'm going to change my mind? I mean, what, are you doing it for other people to see? Because the majority of truthers, the majority of people believe or buy into it. The majority of truthers are leaning towards Trump because they feel like you have to pick somebody. They don't really understand the left-right paradigm, whether they talk about it or not, right? They think Trump is so much better when he's not. They think they're so much different when they're really just the same. There's the same on, you know, they're, you know, neither one of them believes in their policies. They don't believe in anything they're saying. They're just saying it because they told this is what you're supposed to say to these groups of people that you're trying to get votes for. They don't believe in anything. So, you know, they'll get rid of whatever they have to get rid of once they're elected. They'll push through whatever they're told to push through. Neither one of them is going to push back against any of this stuff. Neither one of them's in it for you. They're both narcissists. And so it's silly to say something to me like that when, you know, who cares what I believe or you believe, because it doesn't matter, right? But, you know, it does matter to you as a person getting duped because, you know, you claim to be a truther and you wouldn't believe this. You'd think it's fake if Kamala, it happened to Kamala. If the exact same scenario happened and it was Kamala, you would say it's completely fake, right? Like, it's just because it's Trump. It's just silly. Like, you have to think that these people are different, right? But then this person says, let me make this a little bit bigger here. This is my most recent video about Trump going to McDonald's. You can call the assassination attempts fake, but I know I saw footage of the first shooter on the roof after the fact, and he was completely laid out and bloody. You did? You saw that, did you? Definitely not fake. And MK Ultra Patsy, I'm sure, but a real victim who paid the price for being forced to participate in the show. Also, don't forget about the figure seen on the water tower. You know, none of these things. Look, if they wanted Trump dead, he'd be dead. It's just that simple. Anything you see or not see, you know, Trump made this thing WWE. You know, I have a clip somewhere. I should put that in. Hopefully I'll find that and put that in the video. I didn't do that yet, but it's Trump, and he's with a couple of these wrestlers, and they're talking about, well, hopefully you've already seen the clip. And because I meant to put that in, I think I must have X'd out of it or something, but I'll see if I can find it. But if you've seen the clip, it's two wrestlers talking about Trump, and it's WWE and kayfabe and all that stuff. And it's just poorly done. It's not for smart people. Like, this isn't being done for smart people. This is being done for people who will, want to see the drama and want to be sucked into this thing. You've bought into all this other bullshit about them persecuting Trump when they could throw him in jail or they could kill him anytime they want. He is their asset. The evidence is overwhelming because they talk about it. Why do you think they talk about it all the time? They wouldn't put a microphone in front of him and talk about him all the time if he wasn't moving their agenda forward. He is the center of the media world. He's been the center of the political world now for 8 years. Why do you think that is? You think they really don't want to cover him? They do. They love covering him. It gives them ratings. It gives them something to talk about. These people help me in my show. I mean, I don't care if they disappear, and it'd be better for me just to talk about the spiritual stuff. It'd be better for me if I could just talk about what to do instead of what not to do. But people's minds are set on the negative and the lower. And so I have to do that. But, they make my job easy. They provide all this content for me to mock. They're not my enemies in that sense. They make my, my life and my, life's work easier because I'm trying to show everybody that all this stuff is so low consciousness and the real life is finding your spiritual path, and that fame and fortune and success, the so-called American dream, is a lie, right? But anyways, let's get to the next comment here. And so just no particular order. 40 minutes and 5 seconds into my video, hilarious, desperate Kamala begs men for votes as shelf life runs out. It should say, it says run out. I got to change that. Lincoln was actually black, maybe half black. Look into it. Of all the presidential coins, Lincoln's the only one in bronze, and the head of the president turning the opposite way of the whites. Well, there is written material of Lincoln saying to people in South Carolina that he was against interracial marriage, and he says it in such a way that he says that a white man would never be attracted to a black woman or whatever it is, vice versa. But he's implying that in terms of, what we knew was going on is all these white slave owners were RN their female slaves and impregnating them. And, the wives knew because they would come out and there would be light-skinned babies, right? And Lincoln was saying this thing in a very disparaging way towards interracial marriage and interactions. And so, when somebody announces this, look into it, right? Just because they made the penny out of bronze. The penny's made out of bronze, not because they thought Lincoln was black, because bronze is, or copper, I'm sorry, why am I saying bronze? Copper. Copper was cheaper than nickel, and nickel was cheaper than silver, right? The dime, which used to be made out of silver, was very thin and small because silver was so much more valuable. Even though it was worth 10 cents, still it was not. That's why dimes are so small, right? And a quarter was also made out of silver. But a penny was made out of copper. Copper is relatively cheap. And then nickel was a little cheaper. And it was supposed to be worth the amount, like the amount of nickel in a nickel was worth 5 cents. And the amount of copper in a penny was worth a penny. I mean, that's how they did it at the beginning. Of course, as time went on and things became inflated, it wasn't the same thing. But they used to have half dollar, silver dollar, and these gold dollars, these gold $10, $20 bills or whatever it was. This was back when they had all that kind of stuff. But the people just, it's just silly, the things that people say like that. It's possible that's true. But this is another person. First time I've seen you pop up in years. So I am getting a few people. I think the next comment's like that as well. There's another comment in here like that. Paul, I haven't seen your videos in a very long time. Oh my God, it's good to see your content again. I'm a long time fan of yours for a long time now. Only spiritually will save this world. You're a friend from El Paso, Texas, and I won't say the person's name. But you can't be a long-time fan if you haven't seen my content in a while. But yeah, maybe an old-time fan. But there's people still showing up like this, so YouTube is, still shadow banning me, but not as much. But they're not paying as much money for ads, so all the stuff about subscribing, resubscribing, liking, and things. All the things you need to do to keep the channel going. I'll continue doing that, just not as much. And there's this one. So this was hilarious. Desperate Kamala begs men for votes, and Stormy Daniels something or other. Stormy Daniels came out with this thing, and so this person writes this. Stormy owes Trump for 3 reasons. They didn't sleep together, according to her, the lawyer, and Trump, time and location, unless they get money for a story. I don't even know what that means, but she said they did, and she described the interaction, I think, on Jimmy Kimmel's and other places, right? She also picked out, Jimmy Kimmel brought out a bunch of mushrooms that were supposed to represent Trump's manhood. Now, like they're all big on, Tom talking about Arnold Palmer's, manhood, like just all this stuff. They're real weird, like it's just weird. But she did, and there's more to that. Let me say the other things here. She signed an NDA that she broke. Trump was a victim of a crime, a blackmailing scheme that he wasn't even told about. Happens to billionaires all the time. Pay money or I'll end your career. That's how she makes a living. Okay, that's all silly. See, first of all, Trump wouldn't have lost, like Trump has said himself that he wouldn't have lost voters if he shot somebody in the face. It was well known that Trump cheated on all his wives. There was things in the divorce where his first wife claimed he R'd her. I mean, that's part of the filing of the divorce papers. There's all this stuff that was out there, and it hasn't ended him or wrecked his career, right? And so she, but more importantly, if he paid her $160,000 or anything, and to sign an NDA, then he's a complete scumbag, and it also means that he could easily be blackmailed. If they didn't sleep together, he still made her sign an NDA. If he still paid her off, well, think about all the other women who could claim he slept with them, and he'd pay all of them off. You don't pay people because you're rewarding that. If it got out that he paid this one woman off that he didn't sleep with, then all these other women could blackmail him too, and he'd pay them all off. Trump's cheap, and the only reason he paid her off because he did sleep with her. He's a lying piece of shit, and you're dopey for believing all this stupid stuff. You're silly. It's just ridiculous. He banged her. Like, that's the most obvious thing, and she's gross. He's gross, and like the whole thing, right? And he totally would, because he wanted her on The Apprentice, so he knew about her. He recruited her. He went out and she didn't go and try to be with him. Like, he contacted her, and he floated the idea that he'd put her on The Apprentice only so he could bang her, and then he reneged on that, and then he paid her off, and then she opened her big mouth that he calls a horse face. And so, if Trump is paying off, it's like that guy, Prince Andrew, who paid some girl, one of the Jeffrey Epstein girls, $12 million, but said it was only just to end the whole scandal, that he didn't really do anything with her. And you paid her $12 million just because she accused you? Anybody accuse you of something, you just cave and give them money? Then you're setting yourself up for more and more accusations, right? If you're just passing out free money, anytime somebody accuses you of something, I'll just pay them off to make it easy. You're just setting yourself off. You're setting yourself up for future accusations. It's just stupid. Paul, I have a question for you. Do you frown upon psychedelics? I would just like to take your take on it. I know you don't answer comments really, but if you could say something in a video soon, I'm just wondering. Well, the transmission, the clean I do, the Sajmark system of meditation, it's about not drugs. It has a negative effect on it. It makes your system gross. And there are people that went early. There's a lot of boomer hippies that went to see the second master of the system, Babaji, and they were doing LSD, and they completely wrecked their spiritual condition. One guy wrote a book, and he included some of that in the book, and Babaji was really pissed at him and said, just don't do this again, because he had to rework his whole system because the LSD fucked up his, the spiritual advancement the guy had. This guy was from Denmark, and there were other people from various places, and there were a couple of guys who went to see Babaji, and then they went to visit his successor who was in southern India. So they took a train down to see Charji after they saw Babaji, and they give these sittings where they transmit and read your inner condition and clean your condition. That's what preceptors in the master system do. And so Chargy went to give these guys a system. He said, what did you guys do on the train? And they're like, what do you mean? He said, you did some kind of drugs or something on the train, right? And they said, yeah, we smoked hash. He said, well, don't do that. And he said, they said, oh, Babaji said only forbidden is forbidden. Like that was a common phrase. And he said, yeah, that doesn't apply to this. And so he knew that when they saw Babaji, he said, when you guys left Babaji, he had cleaned you and your condition should have been pristine. And so I knew when there was all this grossness in there from your train trip that you engaged in this stuff. So, these kind of things have a negative spiritual effect, and you're not looking for spiritual experiences or psychedelic experiences like with DMT or all these things that people do, ayahuasca. What you want is God, right? You don't want the experiences. The experiences come with it. But you're not looking for some kind of psychedelic spiritual experience if you're a true follower of God. You're looking for God. You go to God for God's sake. And if God gives you experiences for one reason or another, whatever reason that your spiritual path or you need those experiences, that's one thing. But trying to get spiritual experiences or epiphanies, that's not how you get it. You do it by working to get closer to God. You don't, seek enlightenment. You seek God, and then if your work needs you to be enlightened, then you become enlightened, right? And so this idea of spiritual experiences is for just having the experience part of that, right? Thinking that you're going to have some kind of epiphany through taking something. It's just easy to take something. It's not easy to meditate and go through the hard work. A lot of times meditation is boring and, things you have to work through. Cleaning is unpleasant and difficult. And so purification of your system takes work, and spiritual evolution takes work. Popping a pill and thinking you're going to get enlightenment is silly, right? Like it just doesn't work that way. Like it has, and it forms deep impressions that has the opposite effect because of just the nature. You're changing. Usually these things impair something. They're a toxin that, like disable part of your system. They don't open up or enhance some part of your brain. It's usually they're poisonous in some way. Like people, get bit by like a spider or like some kinds of snakes, and they have these, they have these moments of, spiritual whatever it is, right? Like these things are like poisonous, like alcohol and these drugs. They impair your ability, your brain function and things. They don't help you. They don't enhance anything. They're not, opening anything up. They're something that they're negatively affecting you in some way. And mostly there's an impairment of your system. And so, I don't know exactly how each one of these works, but, that's my sense of it. And it's just you're trying something easy, like popping a pill that takes years and years of work to accomplish, to get spiritual experiences in the right way.